June 10th, 1940. The air is thin, cold, and unforgiving. In the shadow of the Alps, a lone Swiss border guard peers into the mist. Below, the rumble of tanks echoes through the valleys of France, and to the north, the Wehrmacht sweeps across Belgium and the Netherlands. The world is falling, one nation at a time. But here, Switzerland stands, unbroken, untouched, improbable. It was an island in a storm, a small nation surrounded by a military juggernaut, bordered by the Reich, and yet no German soldier would cross its frontier. By May 1940, Germany had conquered France, Belgium, and the Low Countries. The Wehrmacht had demonstrated unprecedented speed, precision, and brutality. Switzerland, a nation of less than 4 million, faced a terrifying choice: submit or resist. Switzerland was geographically isolated, mountainous, and strategically minor in raw resources. Yet, it possessed a unique advantage: its terrain. The Alps were more than mountains, they were a fortress. Narrow passes, hidden valleys, and fortified redoubts meant that any invading army would face an uncertain, bloody struggle. The Swiss had even prepared a plan, the National Redoubt, a complete withdrawal of troops and civilians into the mountains to deny Germany easy conquest. Economically, Switzerland was a jewel. Banks, industry, and crucial transport hubs made it valuable, but valuable enough to be left alone. The Reich, embroiled in campaigns across Europe, calculated that the cost of invasion might outweigh any gain. Irony hangs heavy in the Alpine air. The Wehrmacht, unstoppable in the Low Countries, France, and the lowlands, paused at the Swiss border. Switzerland, neutral and unarmed by modern standards, was ready, and ready in ways no German general could ignore. Every mountain, every valley, every hidden bunker whispered a warning. Here, conquest would be costly, slow, uncertain, bloody. The world was ablaze with war. Yet here, in the heart of Europe, neutrality was not passive. It was a strategy, a fortress, a declaration. To invade Switzerland was to invite disaster. The Wehrmacht had reached the borders of Switzerland. Armored columns rumbled through neighboring France. Reconnaissance planes mapped every valley. The Germans were meticulous, precise, confident. But in Switzerland, every pass, every ridge, every village concealed danger. The National Redoubt was no empty threat. Thousands of bunkers, tunnels, and artillery positions dotted the Alps. The Swiss army could vanish into the mountains, forcing any invader into a slow, grinding campaign where supply lines could be cut, ambushes staged, and retreat impossible. Hitler faced a difficult calculation. Switzerland was small, yet economically vital. Swiss banks handled billions in transactions, supplying credit to Germany's war machine. Swiss factories produced precision tools, machinery, and chemicals essential for military production. Invading Switzerland risked crippling these flows. The irony was unmistakable. A nation surrounded, threatened, and ready for war would remain untouched, not because it lacked enemies, but because it was too inconvenient to conquer. Military planners estimated the cost. To break Switzerland, Germany would have to commit tens of thousands of troops, face months of attrition, and risk supply lines across hostile mountains. For a territory of little strategic value, it was a poor trade. Every mountain pass was a trap. Every fortified village a potential death zone. The Wehrmacht, victorious in Europe's flatlands, understood that the Alps were a different battlefield entirely. Switzerland's survival was also political. Neutrality was enforced rigorously. Swiss diplomats negotiated constantly with both Axis and Allied powers. Intelligence networks monitored German movements. Propaganda stressed Swiss resolve. Switzerland offered economic cooperation, but never submission. By walking the tightrope of diplomacy and economic utility, Switzerland made itself both useful and dangerous, a nation that could enrich Germany while remaining untouchable. The subtle threat of resistance was magnified by the promise of disruption if invaded. The Germans drew plans, Operation Tannenbaum, the invasion of Switzerland, but it remained on paper. The costs were too high, the mountains too treacherous, the Swiss too prepared. Any attack risked bogging down the Wehrmacht in a prolonged campaign while the rest of Europe burned. Every day, Switzerland grew stronger, not by expanding, but by fortifying, by warning, by being ready. The world's smallest army became its most disciplined deterrent. Chaos awaited any who dared cross its borders. Reputation mattered. German soldiers whispered of Swiss resolve. Swiss marksmen were said to strike with deadly precision from hidden positions. Rumors of every man a defender spread, reinforcing the perception of invincibility. In war, perception can be as deadly as reality. The Swiss did not need to fight to be feared. They needed only to exist as a living fortress, a nation that transformed neutrality into deterrence, geography into weaponry, and discipline into strategy. November 1940. Plans for invasion existed. Operation Tannenbaum, the conquest of Switzerland. German troops were ready. Armored divisions, mountain troops, engineers, all poised for a strike. But the Alps, vast and unyielding, lay between ambition and execution. The Wehrmacht had conquered nations with open plains, predictable roads, and clear objectives. Here, every move was uncertain, every pass a trap, every village a fortress. Swiss resistance was not a fantasy. The national redoubt was real. Mountain artillery could strike advancing columns from impossible angles, mines, hidden tunnels, and a citizen army prepared to fight from every ridge would turn conquest into slaughter. The planners realized the cost, tens of thousands of German casualties for a small mountainous nation, months of attrition, supply lines stretched thin, winter upon them. The Alps were a predator disguised as a mountain range. Every day, Switzerland's deterrent grew, not by attack, not by diplomacy, but by existence. The Germans were never attacked, yet they feared every possible attack. In war, perception can be as powerful as any army. The Swiss transformed fear into preparation. Mountains became weapons, civilians became defenders, neutrality became strategy. The world watched, wondering how a nation so small could remain untouchable. Switzerland was never invaded, not by accident, not by mercy. It was geography, preparation, and resolve. A nation that turned neutrality into armor, mountains into fortresses, and discipline into deterrence. The world was ablaze with war, yet here peace endured. Irony was absolute. A nation that did nothing but prepare, that fought without firing a shot, remained untouched while millions elsewhere perished. Switzerland survived not by conquest, but by the quiet, unyielding power of readiness. In a world consumed by war, sometimes the greatest victory is simply to endure.